Salut, hello, and welcome to our next episode of Talking Tildas. We are here, back. The spew table's back. Alex Morgan's back. She had a fun time while we were away. But we are back as we preview the Matildas against Brazil in Montpellier at 2 a.m. Friday morning. Don't worry about trying to pronounce that, and you're not going to get it correct. I don't think I did either. I am your host, Nick Rupolo, joined by Michelle Morris, Christina Trajceska, and Rose Valente, the Dynamite team, bringing you the coverage of the Women's World Cup. Everything you need to know, and everything you don't need to know anyway. But we're going to get stuck straight into today. Rose, a couple of the footage that some of our fans have been getting over in France.
Yes, no, well, not just footage. We do have some footage that we'll be putting on our YouTube channel over the next week. Some videos, what's happening in France, how their experience is, but a few reports on how the cities actually have been. So in the last city that the Matildas played in, wait for it everyone, I'm going to do my best Lucy Zelich, and I'm going to butcher this. Valenciennes.
Perfect.
Oh, thanks guys. I'll be here all week and I'm not repeating it ever again.
Fantastic.
So the match was on a Sunday, and I believe it was a public holiday there as well. So there was a lot of reports that there's a lot of wasn't very exciting. Didn't really feel like there was a World Cup on. Why are you laughing at me? You're just laughing at me. We've all got the giggles, all right?
I'm just
seventh coffee of the day. We've got the giggles.
10.
Yeah. So. It wasn't that exciting. Apparently there's quite a few things closed, like pubs and cafes and things like that, public holiday. A lot of people had to wait, like half an hour, I think they said, for something like a kebab or something basic like that. So, we say a lot about the FFA and the game in Australia and, they didn't plan well enough, but hey, it happens everywhere. But so far, so that was a little bit negative for them. They were, saw a lot on social media that heaps of the Australian fans were all just trying to find each other where everyone is. Let's all get together, find somewhere that's actually open. But now that they're in Montpellier. Apparently it's so exciting there. And it feels like it's a World Cup now. The culture is everywhere. The atmosphere is so exciting. Everyone's pumped. I think the game last night, heaps of Australian fans all got together to watch the France game. I know Taryn was there and she was getting some footage at one of the pubs there. And yeah, it was just so much fun and they're loving it. So that's good. Australians came to a bit of a rocky start in the atmosphere fan culture department, but we're seeing bigger and better things now.
Good to hear that it is picking up ahead of our match against Brazil in Montpellier, and that is, of course, in Australian Eastern Standard Time. That'll be at 2 a.m. on Friday for Chrissy's family watching in Macedonia, and our family watching in Italy. That'll be at 6 p.m. and in Lima, Peru, that will be at 11 a.m. So all our international viewers, please stay tuned. We don't forget our families, and we make sure that they are tuned in watching our terrible pronunciation of the French language. We are going to move on into some of the action that has already transpired. All the groups have completed their first match day for the Women's World Cup. Some cracking matches to start off with, but I think 38 goals in the first 10 matches. A lot of the United States helped that along for that record. In 2015, we had 40 goals in the first 10 matches, so I think the United States did their fair share there in bringing that up. But guys, England-Scotland was a fantastic game, 2-1 win for England. Which other matches do you see here that you thought you had to be there? That was a match that you had to watch. Chrissy, which ones did you enjoy?
Oh, well, I'm going to say England-Scotland as well. That's quite a game, especially for England to come back from after their last couple of losses, especially before the World Cup had kicked off. Everybody was a little bit shaky there. So it was good to see them come up on top this time with the win.
Chrissy, Rose, sorry.
I
should get your name right.
Nice to meet you.
You watched last night's Nigeria versus South Korea match. How was that?
Yeah. I love Nigeria. I absolutely love Nigeria.
She loves their kits.
I love their kits. But I actually had a tweet there, Nigeria FTW. If you don't know what FTW means, then probably Google it. Maybe. I don't know if I should be telling people to Google things that have swear words in them. But because
TLL,
I felt like they had superpowers. Like they were on the pitch for the first half hour. They were there to win it. And Korea were not there to win it, to put it nicely.
Unfortunately.
And yeah, there was a terrible, I think it was technically an own goal, which put Nigeria in the lead, complete F up by the lovely defender, which I'm not too sure what her name is. Poor sweet girl.
Mrs. Kim, unfortunately.
Mrs. Kim?
We are thinking of
just
you.
Like a nightclub in Adelaide, Mrs. Kim's. You should see the goalie's face. Oh my lord! I would not have wanted to be in the rooms at halftime.
You got to feel sorry for her. Hey?
She was not happy.
I mean, I get upset when I miss 2-yard screamers at Sunday League, and you can imagine how that felt ever in a Women's World Cup. I think we all watched the New Zealand versus Netherlands match. Now, that was a match that had so much action end to end. You thought New Zealand was going to steal it in the end, but eventually it was the Netherlands that came away with a 1-0 win in the 90th minute. You've seen a lot of these big teams, they're not really performing as well as we'd expect. I mean, we had Germany, 2 1-0 wins to start off. You'd think that they'd be a team that was going to storm past, make a statement at the beginning, but it seems like the only team that's really making a statement right now is France, the host, winning 2-1, but also a marquee match that one of our guests was definitely involved in was Chile versus Sweden, and unfortunately Chile went down 2-0 to Sweden. And look, Michelle, I know this is going to be tough, but what do you think of the match? How did Chile perform?
Look, realistically, I think they played so well in defensively. They played so well to frustrate Sweden like crazy. Like, you could see on their faces that they were wondering how they could not score, because they just couldn't get anything going, and the balls were going way over, and Endler, the Chile's goalkeeper, is incredible. Like,
Chile's keeper is insane.
Yeah, she's absolutely incredible. And the thing is, she didn't have to play for Chile. She had the opportunity to play for Germany as well. But she didn't. She chose Chile, and I think that says a lot about her character. And look, the attacking was frustrating, to say the least. Like, they couldn't get anything going. The passes were just awful, and it was rough. It was rough to watch. But I was so proud of them just for like the way that they were playing. They never gave up. They just kept going right until the end. And unfortunately, a break in the game due to weather problems with a giant lightning storm.
That was glorious.
They had to pause the game, and that just, it took them out of it, and you could see that. And then Sweden managed to get 2 goals right at the end of the game. And for the most part, I was like, oh my God, we're going to get the draw. We're going to get the draw. I was so happy. But, they got things to work on, and they know that. But they have a lot of heart, and they have a lot of passion.
They're up against the US next. Does that scare the hell out of you?
Oh, I mean, why would you say that?
Why would you be scared of the United States? I mean,
Alex Morgan, remember?
Just another team trying to win a World Cup.
Now, just quickly, are you boycotting IKEA? Is that what that result means?
I mean, I'm boycotting Italy and IKEA and any Italian food. I haven't had pizza or... I'm
boycotting Italian coffee.
So no flat pack
IKEA is not Italian, though.
No, but from the Australia game.
Okay, perfect. Well,
You buffoon.
unfortunately, a losing start for Chile. They come up against the United States, but also a match against Thailand. And of course, there is still the possibility, 3 points against Thailand, you may be able to sneak in as the third place progression into the round of 16. So don't lose hope, Michelle. We could still yet see Chile advance into the knockout rounds, but we're going to jump into some other matches very soon, but we are going to go to a quick break, and we will be right back. Welcome back to Talking Tildas, and a topic that got the global football community talking was the United States defeating Thailand 13-0 in their first match. Now, nothing wrong with scoring a whole heap of goals. I mean, it's the Women's World Cup, but the thing that got people's backs up was the over-exuberant celebrations that they perceived as the United States kept putting the ball in the back of the net. Guys, a lot of talk has been centered around this. It has somehow become very controversial, the fact that they've been, some people believe, over-celebrating 10th, 11th, 12th goals. Where do we sit on this? Chrissy, do you believe that they should have, what some of the experts are saying, where they should have pulled back a little bit?
Well, I'm going to go straight into it and say that people need to calm down. So it's the World Cup, first of all. It's the Women's World Cup. And that was such a massive scoreline. It's something that's been record-breaking. So it's 13-0. I mean, come on, it's the first time that the US has scored that many, and it's been a record for both women and female teams now. So that's something to be excited about. The extent of celebration that they did, maybe, yeah, it was overboard, but at the same time, the celebration that we got against Italy on the 95th minute, that's something that pissed me off. But the thing is, I can't really dwell on it and say, how dare Italy do that? That's football. Football's like that. It's a beautiful game, but it's also a really cruel game. It's a rough game. For people to turn around and say that this shouldn't have been done by the US is sort of odd, because football's also a rough game.
Is there a difference between scoring the winner in a 95th minute winner in a match and scoring the 11th, 12th or 13th against a poor opposition? Do you see really any difference there? Should the mentality change at all?
No, I don't see any really difference at all. If this happened in a male football game, especially in the World Cup, then I don't think anybody would have batted an eye. The reason I think people are so pissed off at this is because it's a women's team, it's the Women's World Cup. People are thinking women are more on the side of sensitivity rather than being rough and tough. We're not. Look at Ellie Carpenter. She got her face kicked in. She's bleeding on the sideline. She patched it up. We're back on the field. Do they really think a couple celebrations against a poorer squad is going to be so sensitive to us? Like we're going to be battered by that?
Rose,
I disagree.
You disagree? Well, I'll come to Michelle. I'll jump over to you in a second, Rose. But so first of all, do you believe that it was over the top, or do you believe that the reaction that we're getting would have happened if it was a men's World Cup?
I think we can look at World Cups, and not only World Cups, but even the Copa America. Germany 7-1, Germany 7-1, and Chile 7-0 against Mexico. I rewatched the goals for Chile, the 7-0 game against Mexico in the Copa America Centenario, and the way they celebrated their goals was they just ran and stopped. They didn't jump, they weren't over the top, they weren't like fist pumping, they weren't counting down the goals or anything. If anything, the goal scorer kind of just was like calm and didn't do anything, didn't really celebrate. It was the rest of the team that came and ran and hugged them and whatever. But that was it. There was nothing, crazy over the top. I think that there is a level of respect that you need to have for the opposition as well. I think if you're still celebrating after 7 goals, like, how much of an ego do you have that you need to be shoving it in someone's face? And although it's not necessarily shoving it in their face, and yes, 13-0 is a great scoreline, for them, but I think at the same time, it's like, you don't have to be running around, and you don't have to be shoving it in people's faces. You can stand there and hug your teammates and be like, yeah, we did it, and then move on.
I was gonna come to you, Rose, but as this is going, I want to jump over to you. What do you think? Do you think that maybe it is rubbing it in their faces a little bit? Perhaps
Overboard, yes.
Is it a cultural thing? That we wouldn't really expect the United States to have that kind of level of, well, if you want to say respect in that terms of, 12, 13 goals. They don't really bat an eyelid when it comes to celebrating. Do you think you say it was over the top?
Over the top, yes. Over the top, yes, and they shouldn't have gone that far. That's definitely a point. They should not have gone that far, but at the same time, it's not something that we should be so over angry about. It happens in football. Once again, like I said, it's a rough game. At the same time, it's a cruel game. It happens. If you don't take the chances in the game and you lose to a massive scoreline, you can't let that hurt you so much. You go, like, Thailand should take away from it and come back stronger. There will be a time where the US will get their karma, where the underdogs rise and the great will fall. Let that take its course. But at the moment, what I'm seeing on social media is people are so aggro about it and so angry about it. We shouldn't be spending all our time over this one game and this massive scoreline and the way that they're celebrated.
I will
Overboard,
say this.
yes, they shouldn't have done that.
I don't think it's because they're women. I think it's because they're American. As in, I think that's why people are much more angry about it. It's not that they're women. I think it's because they're American.
A little bit of an arrogant vibe. Is that what you mean?
Probably also,
because an Australian team wouldn't do this. Would you say an Australian team would do this?
What, the celebrations or the 13-0?
Over
certain
celebration. Well, we'll come over to Rose now
because
look, this is just taken social media, the news by storm. Where do you sit on this side of the fence?
I think both Christy and Michelle made really good points in that, and I do agree that it is somewhat cultural thing, you know, what the Americans are like with their sport, and they really like to celebrate, really like to be winners, you know. Yes, it's cultural. Yes, it is over the top. Yes, there was a little bit of smugness involved in it, but I kind of think, who cares? Like, each to their own. If that's how you want to celebrate you scoring at the World Cup, it's a World Cup. We're not talking about a friendly. We're not talking about the, you know, local. I mean, I'm pretty sure Michelle Morris will get pretty rolled up over at her local, you know. What are you, Division 4?
Division 5.
Division 4, sorry, giving it way too much credit. I'm pretty sure if she scored a few bangers, she would get pretty revved up. I mean, this is the World Cup. This is something they have worked so damn hard for. You score at the World Cup, you celebrate. I don't think there's any difference between the first goal, third goal, Alex Morgan's fifth goal. I would still celebrate. Personally, I probably wouldn't be that smug about it, but everyone on social media, just like Chrissy said, like, initially, I think it all started with that panel. Sorry, I'm not too sure what channel it was. It was a US-based panel.
I think it was Canadian-based.
Canadian, was it? Similar to Optus Sport, but their version over there. The way that those women were talking on the panel, you would think that somebody had offered an animal, like what's the word I said?
An Aztec sacrifice.
You would think that there was an animal sacrificed in the middle of the pitch and somebody wore their body on top of them. Like, the outrage has been so intense. Like, yes, I totally agree with the opinions I've seen on social media that yes, it was smug, yes, it was a bit much, but chill out.
Yeah,
like,
they're
celebrating their goals.
Look, I think someone made a good point on the American coverage that the most respect that you can show a team is to go out and give their best performance for 90 minutes, and the respect that you can show them is to play your best for the entire match.
So how would Thailand feel if they got to like the 10th goal and they were like, better not celebrate?
That's another part of it. It's another way of that showing of respect. So you wouldn't want a team to show pity on Thailand to say, "Oh, look, we put 9 goals past them. Hey guys, just ease up, you know, leave them alone."
That's treating them like they're at the World Cup. They deserve to be there.
If I was a Thai player, I'd be saying, "You give me 100%," because I know we're not as good, but you know, I didn't come out here to play the Women's World Cup and just allow you to spank us around and then to kick the ball around while we wait for the match to finish. But also,
that's about the play, not about the celebrations, because I think that is two different things. Because I think if you're a player and you have just conceded, like, your 10th goal, I don't think you're going to stand there and be like, all right, celebrate. Yeah. Please celebrate your goal for the 10th time and waste even more time.
True.
You know, I think by that point it's like, okay, can we just
just blow the whistle.
You do want them to move the game on. It does, you know, a little bit of sportsmanship does have to come into play.
If it's not degrading, if it's not racial, if it's not political, a bit like the World Cup last year where Shaqiri and Xhaka both did the Albanian eagle against Serbia, then that revolved around what had happened in Yugoslavia. I think it's fine as long as it's not any of those things.
This never had anything to do with racial, political, anything. I think this just had to do with what Michelle mentioned before, which is maybe, you know, it's the Americans just getting a little bit carried away. And
but that's what we mean, though. Like, they're not hurting anybody other than Thailand and all the Thai fans, but not intentionally hurting them. Like, where it's like, oh, you know, here's women's football, blah, 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 World Cup, Women's World Cup. Oh, but let's not hurt the Thais' feelings. Yeah. It's a World Cup. It's competition. It's sport. Let's be competitive. But it was a little bit.
I think there's definitely room for good sportsmanship in any game, and I think in any sport, like, you can find people who are arrogant, Conor McGregor, and people who are not arrogant. You know, so there's that. Yeah. And I will also say that at least my prediction of top goal scorer is
coming to effect. Alex Morgan. She predicted Alex Morgan would be top scorer for the Women's World Cup. Well, plenty of robust discussion happening at Talking Tildas. We will be right back after this quick break. Welcome back to Talking Tildas. So the Matildas begin match day 2 against Brazil in Montpellier on Friday at 2 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And we've played Brazil plenty of times in the past few years and got some fantastic results against them. But unfortunately, against Italy, it started with a little bit of a hiccup, a 2-1 loss in Valencia a few days ago on Sunday. Chrissy, should we be terribly worried about that result?
I think we should, in a way. Looking at how we played, I'm not completely upset with how we played in the first half. A lot of people have already heard that I'm quite happy with how we played in the first half. Second half, of course, it should have gotten better. We fell apart. I'm not necessarily worried now about gameplay. I'm more worried about players because we've racked up a couple injuries in the last game. So that's what I'm more worried about.
We indeed have. A couple of the injury concerns that we've picked up is Caitlin Ford and Lisa Devanna still have a couple of niggles. Elise Kellen-Knight, while she is expected to start this match, thank God, unfortunately one of our centre-backs and the one that gave away the ball for Italy's first goal, Claire Polkinghorn, has been ruled out for the match against Brazil. So a huge blow for the Matildas as they prepare to line up against the South Americans. Rose, after the Italy match, were you deflated at all? Did you feel like maybe you had to think twice about our chances against Brazil or perhaps Jamaica?
Thankfully Chrissy took me to her local kebab shop, which was absolutely excellent.
Better than Panadol.
So we sat in a dark side street in West Sydney eating a kebab. So I don't think I need to really go on more about how I felt after that match. And obviously I couldn't get to sleep for quite some time as well, just wondering what I'm going to do with my life and where, contemplating everything really. But as you all saw, because everyone watched episode 1 and 2, we have to, this is our third episode now. Yeah, wow, time flies.
Keeping track, guys.
I get super, yes, we can do everything. We can win the World Cup. And then reality hits me. So, yes, I'm pretty damn scared that we won't come first and second in our group.
Well, those injuries will do it to us.
Yeah, but third, I think we'll at least get third.
Michelle, we seem to have a couple of bit of trouble against European teams, but against South American teams, we don't seem to do too badly. Are you confident that maybe we can go on our past performances against Brazil and pull off a win here?
Look, that's what I've been saying to everybody who's been asking me. I've been saying, look, we've beat them plenty of times before. It shouldn't be an issue. But, of course, this was all under a different coach, a different mentality. And also, this is the World Cup. And anything can happen in a World Cup. So, I am quietly confident that we'll be fine. But after that Italy match, I am still very nervous. And I will be
continuously nervous.
Yes, very anxious.
I find it interesting how pre-World Cup it was boisterous exuberance and confidence. We could take on anything, run through metal walls, but now we are quietly confident. Australia are quietly confident that they can take 3 points against Brazil.
And we are shitting ourselves.
We are now, unfortunately, but
great. Now if I have to beep it out. Thank you.
We are.
If I just heap the pressure on just a little bit more. Whilst we have performed fantastically against Brazil, Tournament of Nations, and in friendlies in the last 2 years, whilst Michelle also mentioned that was under a different coach, our performances against Brazil at World Cups seem to tell a little bit of a different story. 2007, quarterfinal, we got knocked out by Brazil. 2011, we lost in the group stage. And in 2015, we finally managed to get a win against them. So
it was 1-0, wasn't it?
It was, in fact. If you watched our quiz, you'd know that Kai Simon got the winner in our 2015 round of 16. Shameless plug. But
who won that? Ropes? Who won that?
Rose won.
You're worse than a Sydney FC supporter.
Rose won. Hey, look, we're not that bad.
12 more wins, and you're going to see me lose my shit in celebration, okay?
No more bleeping. No more bleeping. We are done. But look, guys,
you can hear that word on 7 p.m. television.
But look, guys, we let's get back to the football, which is what we're here to do.
Let's do that.
Look, we have a sketchy past when it comes to playing Brazil at the Women's World Cup. So does that make you a little bit more nervous in terms of coming up against the South Americans?
It does. Yes, it does. But then no, it doesn't, because anything can change within 4 years for the next World Cup. We can't keep dwelling on the past, because if we keep doing that, of course, it's going to become a reality.
Michelle?
Yeah.
What she said.
Look, it's hard. South American teams, aren't going to be the greatest, but I think Brazil has definitely proven that they are, top flight team. And I think, our past experience with them has been pretty decent. But again, different coach, different mentality. I think, we just got to give it our best.
Rose, what do you think this different coach, different mentality kind of thing, after the Italy match, that was a part of a lot of the conversation around the Matildas. So what do you think in the aftermath of that match?
Well, what I find really interesting, so it's a little bit more so how I guess the Australian public are reacting to it all. Ever since, the coach got sacked and that whole situation, everyone, all the I'm being very cautious to what I say here. Obviously, we don't know the full story. I mean, you guys might. I don't know. I don't know the full story. I've pieced together what I've heard from different parties about what exactly happened, and but technically the full story hasn't been released. So from day one, it's been nothing but bang, 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 negativity. Of course, it's dramatic. Of course, it's controversial. But how would you feel as a Matilda if your coach has just been sacked in a controversial, dramatic way? That is a shock. If you are in your workplace, just everyone think about your individual workplace and how you'd feel if you've got some large project, you've got something that's going to go on for the next couple of years, and your, person in charge, your manager, has just controversially fired out. That's going to really impact you. That's going to impact the way that you work. It's going to impact everything you do. And as well with the way that the national team is, you don't see your teammates every day in the national team.
The problem with the conversation that we were having after the Italy match was, obviously we lost that match. So that was the worst thing that could have happened. Us losing that match was the worst thing that could have happened to the dialogue around the Matildas at this Women's World Cup, because immediately people fell back onto
wouldn't happen under Stage.
On an excuse like it wouldn't happen under Alan Stage. Well, I find it hilarious how these people are so sure that this kind of thing wouldn't happen under a different coach, because we don't know. Alan Stage could have lost 13-0 against Italy. There's nothing that can prove that we would have performed better. I hope they would have. I hope
the
they
Italians would have.
I've got the guys behind us that were serving our pizza were celebrating. Okay.
But the thing about the situation is that, look, we need to 100% get behind these girls no matter what, because this happened 6 months ago. So
that's the other thing. People continue to bring it up again. Just like you said, it affects the workplace greatly. For it to be finally over and they've got their head in the right place to be winning these games, and then to hear it constantly on social media, on more and more of...
They don't need that.
They don't need to hear again that, it wouldn't have happened without Stage. Get over it. It's done. We have to back them up no matter what.
It's all about...
Deal with it later. Stop talking about the FFA.
It's all about a little bit of a culture of negativity around not only women's football but men's football, especially in the last 6 months. So
Australian football.
The problem especially that we're seeing is that people who aren't even fans of the women's game or the Matildas decide to come out and start to take pot shots. Well, the only thing that you can say is that if you're not there for the Matildas, log off. Piss off, because there's really no point in you throwing your weight around a topic that you wouldn't really care about anyway in the next few months. So if you don't care about the Matildas don't care about you. Cheers. Now we are going to go to a quick break and we will be right back on Talking Tildas.
Hey Chrissy, what are you doing?
Trying to make Turkish coffee with the wrong utensils.
Okay. Hey, did you see Michelle Morris's soccer game on the weekend?
Football, you mean?
Her soccer game.
Football.
Her soccer game.
They call it football.
The game with the round ball.
Yeah, football.
Soccer?
Say football. Say football. Say football.
Football game.
Perfect. Because there's only one football.
Welcome back to Talking Tildas, where we're going to jump in and preview our match against Brazil, which is happening Friday, 2 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Guys, we're quietly confident about our chances against Brazil, but of course, they have so many dangerous players with over 120 caps, over 50 goals. Chrissy, Marta, captain, is one of those players.
Let's start up. No, I haven't written too much, don't worry. I suck at research.
She's also teammates with Alana Kennedy and Emily Van Egmond at Orlando Pride.
This one too.
So we come up against Brazil a lot, but at club level, they're fond of a lot of our players as well. But
At
Marta
club-
is very,
yeah.
very dangerous.
At club level, she's also quite dangerous too. So not just at Orlando Pride. At Brazil, we know she's got 133 appearances and 110 goals. That's already intimidating as is.
Mm-hmm.
At Orlando Pride, she's got 47 appearances and 17 goals. Not as intimidating, but you still know she's able to get the job done. She can score goals. She is dangerous. She's also the star player for Brazil, of course, along with a bunch of other players, but she's the main player that everyone keeps an eye on. She's won a huge amount of awards, along with what was the award? Here we go. Winning the FIFA Women's Player Award 5 years in a row. So 5 years in a row, and then she stole it again from our very own Sam Kerr last year. Rigged.
Well, this is we're not playing Brazil at the Women's World Cup because we want to get 3 points. We want to play them so we can beat Marta and Sam Kerr can get her award back.
Exactly.
That's simply why.
Exactly.
Rose, some of the dangerous players against Jamaica. Brazil's first match against Jamaica, 3-0 win.
Yeah, Christiane,
Yes.
definitely. She scored a hat trick.
Oh yeah.
It's
a long day.
It's a long day. I most certainly fell asleep in that game, and I just remember waking up because I fall asleep and I've got the game on because, we all have work during the day. And it was like her third goal, and I just woke up. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. knowing that we have to play them next. And she was just on fire, though. The bits that I was awake for, she was absolutely on fire.
Michelle, interesting, dangerous player for you.
What's her name? Formiga.
Formiga. Yes. Historic
Formiga.
player.
Formiga.
Historic
Formiga.
player.
No, it's Portuguese. I don't know how to speak Portuguese. But 41 years old. What's this? 7 World Cups?
Her 7th World Cup.
That's nuts.
When she actually made a
41.
debut. She made a debut at the 1995 World Cup. When
I
she
was
made
born in 95.
Well, the thing is, when
I
she
wasn't.
made her debut at the 1995 World Cup, Ellie Carpenter wasn't even born. She was born 5 years later after Formiga made her debut for Brazil.
That's
This is, and you talk about role models in a team. I mean, what better role model could you have for Brazil? Head to head against Brazil, though, it's similar to the Italian lineup. It's very, very close, despite us being a little bit more lopsided in the past. Our last game, 3-1 win at the Tournament of Nations in July. But we have 9 wins for us, 8 for Brazil, and 1 draw between us in 18 matches played. Guys, just listening to any of these stats, any of these dangerous players, does it maybe tip the scale for you in terms of who's going to take away 3 points here?
Yeah, still. Still very, very scared. But look, anything can happen once again. That's football. But looking at the statistics and being a realist at the moment, we should be worried. We should have our guard up. A lot of people said that Italy was going to be easy. If you watched the show last week, we would have stated why
Exactly.
it wasn't easy. It's the same thing for here. They may be veteran players. Some of them may not have scored as many goals as they should have. It happens. But we shouldn't let our guard down.
Exactly, and we definitely can't let our guard down considering the changes that might have to come around for the starting 11. Of course, Claire Polkinghorne, our starting centre-back, will be missing for this match due to an injury, pulling out for the match. And so what people are saying is that our left-back, Steph Catley, may move into centre-back, but the problem is nobody can tell us who is going to fill the left-back role for us against Brazil.
And that's stressing.
Because people don't want to move Ellie Carpenter because she was she one of our best players
On
against
fire.
Italy?
Yeah.
She's great.
The reason the back line looked so alive.
I mean, don't want to
That's the
move
reason
her.
why the team looked alive.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Ellie was
God, just carrying everybody on her shoulders.
woman of the match for me in our game against Italy. Some of the players, Tegan Allen, Melbourne Victory left back, play 40 caps for the Matildas, and she is, in terms of replacements for left back, one of the more experienced. This is actually her second World Cup.
Yeah.
She has 40 caps for the Matildas, and unfortunately, Elise Keller-Knight is coming in as well, but we may see her have to come back into centre back, which isn't what we want to see. We want to see her in midfield, because it is going to be a very dangerous game against Brazil if we don't have our best midfielders playing. So, guys, any ideas, Michelle, Rose, about who you'd start or how you'd change things up?
I have no freaking idea. You know what? I do not envy the coach's position right now. I would not want to be that coach, that coaching staff, or anyone in there, because you know what, God bless you all.
Not even
Good
experts, not even experts. Anybody, Optus, anyone can actually fill the left back spot. They actually do
Is
not
Optus
know.
going to fill the left back spot, or are they?
Well,
they're calling up me later. There we go.
They heard that you're top of the league.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, my team's top of the league.
Michelle, how would you change things around? Do you know? Do you
I
have
don't
the
even
answer?
know.
Do you have the answer for
Look,
us?
the
Michelle?
thing
Anybody
is,
knows
as
now?
long as Sam Kerr isn't on the wing like she was in that Italy game for
Yeah.
some point of the game, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand what she
Yeah.
was doing on the wing.
Well, I mean, she was getting so forced out there because she
Yeah.
was getting absolutely no service. She was having to come deep and out wide to receive the ball, which is
She had to
probably...
play 2 roles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think where Ellie is like perfect. I think she needs to stay right back, because if she's anywhere else, like, you know, she was carrying the team. Let's be real. She was doing so well, moving the ball forward. But yeah, I have no idea how to fix this. I think Australia lacks
UK?
in
No.
the difference between the men's team and the women's team is the men's team doesn't have any people who can score goals, and the women's team doesn't have many people who can stop the goals, as in defend.
That's a good point. I actually didn't think about that. It's not a common discussion that we have about having a lack of defenders.
Yeah.
But the problem for me is I posted my predicted lineup 2 days ago,
You gotta
and
change
now it has to change. I posted it. I had
And it was
Gorry.
so well written.
It was
Yeah.
so well written.
Little-
I redid it like 4 times because I wanted to make sure that people could read it, because I have the handwriting of a 4-year-old.
Really, we did not know this.
But I had Gorry starting and I had different players, but now it's just thrown all out of proportion. And
stressful.
nobody
Are you going
knows.
to post a new one before
I
the match
can't
starts?
post a new one because I don't know who I'm going to start, and I won't know who I'm going to start
Michelle.
up until Michelle.
I'm not a defender. So.
Michelle at left back.
The worst decision.
Well, we're not strangers to the Matildas players being played out of position in the past, so Michelle playing at left back wouldn't actually be that bad of an idea.
I got the kit. Oh,
I mean-
sorry, wrong one.
What have we got to lose?
Guys, we're going to quickly run around the panel for our predictions for the match. If you can, Rose, scoreline.
High scoring, 4-3. We're going to take it home. Yeah,
4-3
I'm doing it.
Matildas.
4-3
Chrissy,
Matildas.
Come back to me. I'm still registering.
Michelle,
3-2.
3-2 to the Matildas.
Yeah, 3-2.
Chrissy, we're back over to you.
Tick.
Okay.
3-2.
3-2 to the Matildas. I'm going to say 1-all Australia, Brazil. Thank you so much for joining us here on Talking Tildas as we previewed Australia versus Brazil. That is coming up Friday, 2 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And for those who forgot, that is 6 p.m. in Macedonia, 11 a.m. in Peru, and 6 p.m. in Italy as well for all our overseas viewers. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on Talking Tildas. I've been Nick Rupolo with Michelle Morris, Christina Trajceska, and Rose Valente. Go Matildas. We'll see you next time.